Hi, everyone. Happy Thursday. Today, I want to say something directly to high performers in the room. Whether you're a director, VP, senior individual contributor with more than 15 years of experience, and you're a high achiever, and the DNA of a high achiever is just tough to actually pretend that you're happy if you're doing work that doesn't challenge you. Now, a lot of you listening here, you have a track record, you have the experience, you have results most people would kill for, and yet you're not where you should be. The compensation doesn't reflect it, the environment doesn't reflect it. Maybe you are in an environment that just went through a change, whether it's a new CEO or a merger and acquisition, and it's quite toxic. Now, everyone is telling you to be grateful because of how hard the market is. Build more, do more, be more. And here's what I want you to hear today. You are not underperforming, and you know this. And after you've paid all of your dues, you should not be putting up with a mediocre environment or a mediocre leadership. That is like being in a relationship that is stagnant. Now, I know that it's tough when you hear a lot of people talking about how the market is bad. And so, what I want to do today is empower you and provide you a framework to help you overcome this. So, I've been studying for the past 6 years and helping over 1,000 professionals, 5 specific loops that create a ceiling most senior professionals never break through. Not because they can't, but because nobody showed them the map. So today I'm going to give you the map. If you're watching live, let me know in the comments. Tell me how the weather's like. It's raining outside. Not pleasant. I got my, little dog here who's always, part of these lives. I'm sure that you've seen him before. Of course, he's bragging now and licking my face. Let me know if you have a dog too. And if your dog hijacks your work meetings and Zoom meetings. Hi, it's nice to see you. Thank you for sharing. Oh, it's raining in Manila now. Okay, thank you for sharing as well. All right, so I don't know how I'm going to show this on camera, but I broke my foot. I didn't tell anyone, but this is what's going on here. This happened recently. So, anyway, lots of interesting stuff going on. But I wish I could go to a store and buy new feet because I have terrible feet. They're flat and I just keep injuring myself. I broke my foot before, the right one, and then the left one, I twisted my ankle. When you have flat feet, you can't find good shoes, and this is what happens. Anyway, I digress. Today we're talking about the loops that keep high performers from breaking their career ceiling. Now, I want to talk about the first loop. Thank you, but I'm okay. Don't worry about me. So the first loop is the scarcity tax. There's a Harvard study that found that when your mind is consumed by financial stress, your effective IQ drops by 13 points. You become reactive instead of proactive. You can't think long term because you're too busy fighting the present. Now, you might be thinking, that's not me. I'm not financially stressed, especially if you are making $200,000. But you know what I've been finding out is that no matter how much money you're making in this economy, it never feels like it's enough because pre-pandemic, the cost of living was significantly lower. And so if you were used to lower cost of living on the salary that you currently have, all of us can feel the pain, right? So here's what I want you to consider. You don't have to be broke to be in a scarcity mode. And when you're in a role that's draining you, when you're underpaid and you know it, when you have been passed over promotions and it stings, when you're watching less qualified people get promoted, your cognitive bandwidth collapses in exactly the same way. Your IQ gets lowered. There are studies that have shown that when we are going through financial stress, our IQ gets lowered. And so what happens is you stop thinking strategically and start thinking reactively. And this can also happen if you're well compensated, but you're miserable. We call it the golden handcuffs. And you're scared of leaving because you're worried about the financial stress too, right? And what that ends up doing is it keeps you from thinking strategically and it causes you to start thinking reactively. You apply to anything that looks like an upgrade. You take the first offer because at least it's movement. You interview from a place of quiet desperation instead of grounded confidence. And hiring managers feel it, even when you think you're hiding it. This is what we call the strategic paralysis spiral. And the higher you are in terms of the organization, the more expensive it is. A bad move at the director level costs you 12 to 18 months. At the VP level, it can set your trajectory back years. And the fix isn't just financial runway, though that helps. The fix is strategic clarity. When you are crystal clear on exactly what you're worth, exactly what problem you solve, and exactly who needs you, desperation evaporates. You are no longer choosing from whatever's available. You are choosing from what's aligned. I want you to think of the most expensive brands that you buy. Who can tell me the most expensive thing that they've ever bought in their life? It's hard. I'm a big investor in like my education, but I mean, the most expensive thing that I bought was my Botox treatment for migraines. And why did I buy it? I had to spend like $1,200 on this treatment because it was so valuable to me. And so think of a purchase that you made and it didn't matter that you didn't have the money or you didn't have the savings and you bought. Why did you buy it? Because it was different. It met your needs. There's no other replacement. And so that's how I want you to think about yourself. A lot of people, what they do is they commoditize themselves. They compete with other professionals based on titles, based on the same things that people talk about in their resume that ChatGPT tells them, and they don't understand what differentiates them. If you are a product director, there are a gazillion other product directors in the market. Can you go narrow? Can you figure out what you're great at? And if you can demonstrate that what you are great at impacts the company's bottom line, then the company is going to want to hire you. I've had many clients in this situation who said to me, there's no way I'm going to land a $200,000 offer, $250,000 offer, a $300,000 offer. And in the end, they did because they got so much clarity in what differentiates them. I have a client who landed in Meta. She came from the nonprofit sector, humanitarian sector. And initially, she did not think that she was going to exceed, her six-figure salary. And we figured out what made her unique, that Meta was willing to pay for versus hire someone else internally. And it's the fact that she had experience talking to government officials. It didn't matter that she wasn't technical. She had something that the company really wanted that helped them with their initiative. So when you're clear on that, you become worth more than any single salary negotiation. Having that clarity on your zone of genius, on your career sweet spot, is the single most important thing in this market. Think about what's going on in this market. The rich are getting richer, and then everyone who's in the middle class is moving towards the bottom. And so where do you want to be? How do rich people think? How do the wealthiest people think? You need to figure out what makes you the best in what you do. Think about all the luxury brands. That is their strategy. If you want to reach a six-figure income per year, how do you overcome imposter syndrome? This is exactly how. You need to figure out what you're great at. And one of the things that I help my clients with is I excavate their hidden genius so that the right rooms and the right opportunities find them. Okay, so let's talk about loop number 2, the dopamine trap. This is the prestige and validation loop. This one is subtle and it hits ambitious people very hard. When you're undervalued and overlooked, your brain is just hungry for a win, and you go looking for the wrong ones. You take the VP title at a company that's actually a step sideways. You chase the prestige brand name that pays 50,000 below your market value because at least it looks impressive. You say yes to a stretch promotion that doubles your scope and adds only 1% to your salary, and you tell yourself it's an investment in your future. For a few weeks, it feels like progress. You update LinkedIn, people congratulate you, the dopamine hits, and then you realize you're still underpositioned. You just have a fancier title. This is a career version of optimizing for how things look instead of what they're actually worth. I will tell you all that I've worked with people who make $500,000, 1 million, and they're miserable. No amount of money is going to make you happy if you're in a role with terrible people and you're not learning. If you're in a role where you have to walk on eggshells. You want both. It's possible to get both. And ambitious people are especially vulnerable to this because we're wired to achieve. We want to win. We want the momentum. We'll take the wrong win just to feel like we're moving. I had a client who was so terrified. Actually, I'll tell that story later. But she was terrified of leaving her current role, even though she was severely underpaid. And I'll tell you later what happens and how I helped her. So the shift I want you to make is this: stop collecting titles, start building career assets. Career assets compound. Your reputation, your thought leadership, your network of people who advocate for you in rooms you're not in, those things work for you while you sleep. When I was at a consulting organization, I realized that. And I see this even in my business. To me, it's not just the money, it's my reputation, it's my thought leadership. People tend to come to me because they see what I share, right? Some of you might be listening here and you know me, and this is why you're on the live. I never really announced that I'm going to hop on, but you sit here and you listen to what I share because of my reputation, because of my thought leadership. And those are the things that open doors. When people talk to me about hidden market, all of this, marketing hype, that some coaches share, they overcomplicate it. It's really simple. All you need to do is you need to build a reputation so that people trust you. It's all about trust when it comes to hiring. Organizations spend a lot of money on hiring, and sometimes they make mistakes. And because they may have made mistakes in the past, they want to make sure that they're not making the same mistake again. So if there's a way that you can build that trust, doors are going to open. And stuffing your resume with keywords or using AI to build your resume is not what's going to build trust, right? So you got to build trust. That's really what it is. And the old-fashioned way of showing your work, building relationships, talking to people in a human way, that's what builds trust. I mean, this is a perfect example of what I'm doing here, right? I do practice what I preach versus a lot of people, They hide behind their computer. They use AI slop to post content. That's not building trust. Okay? So you need to stop collecting titles and start building your career assets. And this is something that I help my clients with when they come to my program. There are so many things that you can do to build trust. It's not cold calling and sending DMs to people. It's from the way that you communicate and speak, your positioning. Now, loop number 3, the linear income trap. The hours for dollars ceiling. This one is the engine of the whole loop. Most senior professionals don't even see it. You were taught that career progression is linear. You work hard, you get promoted, you get a raise. And if you only do these things, then you'll just progress in your career. But here's the math nobody tells you. Salary has a ceiling, and inflation is eating it from below. You get a 4% raise, inflation runs at 6%. You're objectively poorer than last year, and you worked hard to get there. Meanwhile, the responsibilities keep stacking, the expectation keeps rising. You get that late email from your boss with all of these expectations of you when you're not being compensated well and you're barely covering your bills and expenses. So what do most people do when they're in that situation? They think that working more hours, taking on more projects, and someone noticing is going to help them get promoted and get that raise. And so they burn out trying to solve a math problem with effort that cannot by definition fix it. You cannot out effort a broken equation. You have to change the equation. If your organization hasn't promoted you for a whole year, if the culture hasn't changed for a whole year, if you know that the only way the culture is going to change is if all of the, people at the top get fired, then come on, that's logic, right? You staying and ignoring the problem and telling yourself, "Oh, but if I make a move, it's going to be worse." I'm sorry. What's worse than a nasty boss? What's worse than you losing your health? Oh, I want stability and security. You think you being in a bad environment is stable and secure? Ask your partner, ask the people around you who have been watching you burn yourself out. Ask them if that is stability. So what happens is, yes, you burn out. I've had someone who reached out to me and shared with me that they've lost their health. I lost half of my pancreas because of a bad environment. From all the stress, I got a cyst in my pancreas and my pancreas almost exploded, even though I don't drink and I wasn't obese. Okay? So this is exactly what my category of one framework is built on. You stop trying to be the best version of a generic title, the best marketing director, the best operations VP, because that market is crowded, that value is commoditized, and the ceiling is low. Instead, what you need to do is you need to combine skills that no one else in your space has combined. And I'm not talking about AI skills, but every single one of you has a combination of skills that you're not aware exists, because no one sat down with you and asked you questions about what you've done in your career and connected the dots for you. I'll give you an example of how this works, right? And how I do this with my clients. I get them to do a journaling exercise and we have multiple conversations. So I'm going to use myself as an example. What makes you unique, what makes me unique as a career coach, an executive career coach, when there are so many career coaches out there, is one, I've been in the corporate world for 15 years. I've worn many hats. I've moved across multiple organizations. I worked with consulting companies where I had many clients, and the clients were organizations like the Yellow Pages, Bombardier, which is in aerospace, retail, healthcare, so many companies, right? And because of that knowledge, I developed an understanding of what all the roles look like, what they entail, and I also got a deep understanding of what it's like to be in these different roles because I've worked with all of these people on large transformation programs that are up to $1 billion. How many career coaches can say that and say that they have a technology background, so they understand product, they understand engineering, and they understand the recruitment process because they've worked with recruiters, right? So you see what I did? I took a combination of all of my skills and I showed you what made me unique. And that's exactly what I do with my clients. The question that I want you sitting with right now is, what is your combination? What are the 2 or 3 things that if you stack them together, make you genuinely irreplaceable? I'll give you another example. I have a client who's a CPA. He's a finance leader, but he's also been in financial technology transformations where he's implemented SAP and ERP systems. That makes him unique because that differentiates him from the generalist finance leader, right? So think about that for a minute. And I'd be curious to know, what are some of the skills that you have that you feel unique? And if you plop them in the chat, I can share with you examples of roles that you could be doing, that you could be targeting based on this combination of skills. So let me know in the chat. I'd love to see. Okay, loop number 4, social gravity, the mediocre peer group. This is the most emotionally difficult one. I see this day in and day out. And I'm going to just say this with all the love in my heart. If everyone around you has accepted $130,000 salary as a ceiling, you will eventually accept it too. This is called the crab bucket effect. You put one crab in a bucket, it crawls out. You put 10 crabs in a bucket, and every time one of these crabs tries to escape, all of the other crabs pull it back down. Not because they're evil, but because your escape highlights their imprisonment. Your escape makes them realize how bad their situation is. So they'd rather pull you down with them so that they don't feel as bad. And the career version of this is real, and I see it a lot. It's the peer group where everyone complains about their boss and nobody does anything about it. It's the colleague who says the market is tough, just be grateful you have a job. It's the LinkedIn echo chamber full of people celebrating, 5,000 raises like they won the lottery. When you are surrounded by people who have made peace with being undervalued, their ceiling becomes your ceiling. You start believing that that's the most you can do. Not because you chose it, but because you are a human being, and human beings are wired to match the frequency of the people around them. So what do? You can't always change your zip code. You can't always leave your team immediately, but you can control what you can change about yourself. This is why I've designed and curated a spectacular community of leaders that I have vetted. This is how my program works. It is community based. Partly, I do work with people one-on-one, but I deliberately create a community because it is difficult to achieve any type of goal completely on your own. You need to be surrounded by people who are at your level, who constantly challenge you and who motivate you, frankly. And critically, when you see that, you stop seeking validation for your career decisions from people who have never done what you're trying to do. When you start seeing the number of people who achieved what you want to achieve, it will normalize your goals, versus when you surround yourself with people who have not achieved what you want to achieve. Of course, you're going to think it's impossible. You are the average of the voices you let in. So I want you to curate ruthlessly who you surround yourself with. And this, by the way, is one of the core things that happens in my program. You stop being surrounded by people who think your goals are unrealistic, and you start surrounding yourself with people doing exactly what you're trying to do. The shift in what feels possible is almost immediate. Now let's talk about loop number 5, the compound void. This is career equity versus career debt. So Einstein said that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. In your career, this is the same divide. Career debt looks like this. You stay too long in a role that doesn't challenge you, your skills quietly decline and the market moves on. You stop being someone who learns and start being someone who maintains. And every year you do this, the gap between where you are and where you want to be widens. You become obsolete. You don't feel it at first. It's invisible because you're in it. But one day when you're in an interview, you realize you haven't done anything genuinely new in the last 4 years. That is career debt. And just like financial debt, it compounds against you silently. So if you're feeling stagnant, oh my God, especially in this fast-moving world of AI, you better do something about it. I know it is scary making a change. You might think, you are stable in your organization. But are you going to be there for the rest of your life? Do you see yourself in that company for the rest of your life? As a high achiever, do you want to be that person who's been in the same role for 20 years? You've got to do something about it. The harder you stay, the more difficult it becomes. Now, I'm not saying I haven't helped people who have been in the same company for 30 years. Now, granted, even though they've been in the same company for 30 years, they moved around. It's possible, but it becomes harder. I'm not going to lie to you. So the sooner you start, the easier it is to make the change. Now, I want to talk to you about career equity. This is how it looks like. Every role builds something that transfers to the next. Your reputation grows, your network deepens, your thought leadership compounds, opportunities start finding you instead of the other way around. The professionals who have escaped the career poverty loop are on this side. They don't even need to apply to jobs. I have a client who built a lot of career equity. She doesn't even need to apply to jobs as much. And even when she does, she has an advantage because she knows so many people. She's built so many relationships. And this is what puts you in a position to not negotiate from desperation. And look, if you haven't built that career equity, it's not too late. It's like if you have never saved money and if you have never bought any property or invested, it's never too late to do that, right? You can learn the skill. And this is something that I teach. And this is what I call your escape velocity. And it's available to you, but you have to be the one who deliberately builds it. So let's talk about the 3 stages of career escape. Here's the framework, and this is how you actually get out. Stage 1, stop the bleeding. Before you can build anything, you have to stabilize. Stop taking on more responsibilities without compensation. Stop the slow burn burnout. Staying in a role that burns you out, how do you expect that you're going to progress in your career and learn if you can't put an end to it? That is eating your clarity. That's demotivating you. And of course, it's going to make it impossible for you to leave. Create enough runway. And the runway is about planning your future. Sometimes when we create a plan that gives us clarity, it creates reassurance, it makes it more motivating, and then you can break it down in little pieces and slowly implement it. So this is something that I do with my clients before we start applying for jobs or talking about leaving. You don't have to leave until you have a plan and until there are other options and other opportunities for you. Stage 2, build your career assets. This is the accumulation phase. You do the positioning work, you get clear on your category of one, what differentiates you, what makes you different. You get ruthlessly clear on the story you tell about your value, not a laundry list of what you've done and a bunch of bullets on a resume, but a precise, powerful articulation of the transformation that you create. You build the thought leadership, you cultivate the network, you stack the skills, and this is what my clients achieve in my program. And then the last phase, your escape velocity. This is when your career assets start generating inbound opportunities. Director level, VP level, C level. This is when recruiters reach out to you, not you reaching out to them and getting ghosted. When your move is chosen, not accepted. When your compensation reflects your actual market value, not what your last employer decided you were worth. Once you hit the stage, the friction disappears. Excuse me. Quick question. I'm an entrepreneur not pursuing roles, but your insight tonight genuinely caught my attention. Do you ever work with founders who know how to create value and stand out, but still catch themselves underpricing or underselling? So, funny story is I have worked with a founder before. I've worked with multiple founders. I've worked with career coaches. I've worked with a multi-million founder. But right now, unfortunately, I'm not focusing on that. However, connect with me, stay in touch. Maybe I can refer you to someone else. And I really appreciate you dropping this comment. If you found it helpful, feel free to like and repost it so that someone else can benefit. Thank you so much for your question. And if anyone else has questions, I would really love to hear from you. Okay, so here's what I want you to take away from today. You are not stuck because you're not good enough. You are not stuck because the market is broken. The market is always going to be competitive, and it's never going to stop being competitive, and it's going to keep getting harder and harder. Why are others getting the better opportunities? You are not stuck because you need another certification. Oh my God, I had an insane conversation with a client today. She is an amazing fit for a director level role. And I asked her, what is your game plan? And she said, well, I have my previous boss works at that company. And I also know a recruiter that I worked with who was in the same company that I was in. And I'm going to be having a conversation with them tomorrow. And I'm going to be sharing with them the beautiful resume that we built that clearly articulates my value. And I said, yes, this is awesome. So what else are you going to do? And she said, oh, I am going to take a change management certification. And so I just sat there and I said, hey, did you not do any change management work in your previous role? She said, I absolutely did, but I'm going to take the certification. So I asked her, what do you think would be more beneficial, taking the certification or preparing for the interview and coming up with a set of stories that clearly show them what you've done before and connects it to the role? And she sat down and she said, oh my God, you're right. That's what I need to do. So some of you focus on the wrong things, and that is the value of having a coach keeps you focused so that you're not working on the wrong things, and who's going to help you get there faster. Imagine all the time she would have wasted on taking that certification and the money she would have spent when she can just utilize that time to strengthen her responses and her conversations with people at the VP level and above. And part of why you all feel that way is because you're all learners. That's what makes you high achievers. But that can work against you, and that could be what's holding you back. Okay, so the 5 loops: strategic paralysis, the prestige trap, the linear income ceiling, the mediocre peer group who pulls you down with them, and the career debt of you being stagnant compounding against you silently. These are the chains, and none of them require you to work harder to break. They require you to work differently, strategically, with the right positioning. Position yourself as a luxury brand, not a mass market brand. When you are a mass market brand, you're competing on price. When you are a luxury brand, you're offering value that no one else has, and the company is going to be willing to drop money if they can see the ROI, and that's what you need to do. So if you're a director, VP, or senior professional and you're ready to stop guessing in this market and start moving with precision, then let's talk, because this is exactly what I love doing. It's my jam. I mean, I'm doing this at 9 p.m. because of how much I love it. So how do you have a conversation with me? Very simple. Yeah, underpricing it takes positioning. Yeah, I agree with you, my friend. I mean, think about it. When you see something that's cheap, what's the first thought that comes into your mind? It can't be that good, right? But when something is expensive, you're going to think twice and say, wow, this is good quality stuff. Now, something can be expensive, right? But if the value isn't clear and you don't see the benefit, then you're not going to buy it. Okay? So it's not just about price, it's also about the value. If the value is clearly articulated, and you need to think about it this way when you're marketing yourself as a professional. And again, all this crap about hidden job market and all this stuff makes me angry, because it's not that complicated, friends. Whether you talk to a headhunter, whether you apply for a job on job boards, whether you're networking, the concept is the same. If the person on the other side of the table can't clearly see your value, they're not going to choose you. This is why I have people who come to me and tell me I don't have a good network, because their network referred them and they still didn't get the job. You should never rely on someone else to articulate your value for you. You need to be better at selling yourself. You're an executive, for God's sake. And I don't know an executive who doesn't sell at an organization. You're still responsible for sales decisions in some shape or form. You might not be the one who's acquiring clients directly, but you're always going to be involved in sales conversations, whether you're in product at the director and VP level, whether you're in marketing, you're always going to interact with a sales team. And so you need to be comfortable selling. And all selling is alignment. It's value exchange. Make the value exchange clear and people will hire you. Very simple. People overcomplicate this. Okay, so if you want to have a conversation with me, if you fit into the bucket of someone who wants to land a $200,000 role and above, then it makes sense for us to talk. If you are targeting below 150,000, doesn't make sense for us to talk. Okay? So there are amazing people who help, folks who land, less than 150,000. I encourage you to reach out to them, but that's not what I do. I have top tier, professionals who are targeting bigger salaries. That's my specialty. Okay. So, going to share with you my screen here so that you know how to book a call with me. And yeah, the reason I also say that I only help people who are targeting $150,000 above, because my strategies are not mass market strategies. My strategies are for people who are high achievers. If you know that you're great at what you do, if you're not confident in what you do, if you don't consider yourself a high achiever, if you don't have a good work ethic, if it's not important for you to do work that you love, then I can't help you, right? Because I'm not there to help you improve your competency. I'm there for people who are secure in their ability to perform and care about their work, have care about their work ethic, because I can't instill those values in people, right? Okay, so under my name, book an appointment. It'll take you to this page, and there's a video that you can watch where I share my story. And you can click on this book your career diagnosis button, choose your goal so that I have a great understanding of what you do. This only takes 2 minutes, okay? And why I ask these questions is for me to get a better understanding of your situation. So I invited to do this while I have availability because I don't always have availability. There's a limit in terms of how many people I can talk to, especially with a 47,000 plus, following. I don't have time to talk to everyone, and I don't always have spots available because I really love coaching people. I'm here to really help people achieve their goals, and I give my clients individual attention. So I encourage you that if you've been thinking about it, if you've been following me for some time, you've been thinking about it, but you're not sure, just do it. You're not going to lose anything. Seize the opportunity. If you came across my profile for the first time, watch the video. It explains what I do, right? And then you can make a decision and decide if you want to book with me or not. And what happens during the call is I'll ask you questions. I'll diagnose what's going on. I'll help you understand what's blocking you. And then I'll create a plan. I will create a plan for you. And then, we can decide if we should implement the plan together or not. I had someone who booked a call with me today, for example, and after asking her questions, I came to the conclusion that I'm not the right person to help her. Okay. So it doesn't mean that we're going to work together, but she was very happy coming out of the conversation because she had a solid plan. So I invite you to take advantage of this opportunity. I hope that this has been helpful. Please do me a favor. It does take a lot of effort for me to create this content, and I love helping people. I love changing people's lives. So if this has been helpful for you, I would really appreciate it if you comment, like, repost, so that someone else who feels stagnant in their career, who's not happy, doesn't know what to do, can get this information, and that can really change their life. And wouldn't it be awesome if we all, help as many people as possible and provide them the right information? Okay. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday. Thanks for tuning in and listening. I appreciate it. Have a good night.